Nilothpol was exhausted. The city pressed down on him with its relentless noise and chaos. He longed for peace, for silence, for a breath of fresh air. His heart yearned for something more, something real. Every day felt the same. He was lost in the crowd, just another face in the throng. The city had stolen his dreams, leaving behind a hollow ache. He knew he couldn't stay, not any longer. One day, he decided to leave. He packed a small bag, leaving behind the trappings of his city life. He booked a ticket to a small village, his ancestral home, a place he had only heard about in whispered stories. This journey was a pilgrimage, a search for his roots and for himself. The bus journey was long and arduous. As the cityscape gave way to countryside, Nilothpol felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. The air grew cleaner, the sounds softer, replaced by the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves. Gone were the towering skyscrapers, replaced by rolling hills and verdant fields. The concrete jungle made way for a tapestry of nature's colors. Rivers glistened in the sunlight, reflecting the azure sky. The world seemed to breathe again. He watched in fascination as villagers went about their daily lives. Farmers tilled the land, their movements slow and rhythmic. Women washed clothes by the river, their laughter echoing through the air. Children played under the shade of banyan trees, their faces lit with joy. Upon reaching the village, Nilothpol felt a sense of belonging he had never known. The air was filled with the fragrance of wood smoke and spices. He wandered through the narrow lanes, taking in the sights and sounds. He came across a small hut, its walls adorned with intricate carvings. An old man sat on the porch, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. The man smiled, his face etched with the passage of time, and invited Nilothpol in. The old man's name was Bishwanath. He welcomed Nilothpol with open arms, offering him tea and conversation. Nilothpol felt an instant connection with him, a sense of kinship that transcended age and experience. Bishwanath offered him a room in his humble abode, an offer Nilothpol gratefully accepted. Life in the village was simple, a far cry from the frantic pace of the city. Days were measured by the rising and setting of the sun, by the rhythm of nature. Nilothpol found solace in this simplicity. He woke early each morning to the sound of birdsong. He helped Bishwanath with his chores, tending to the small vegetable garden and fetching water from the well. The work was tiring but fulfilling. He felt connected to the earth, to something larger than himself. In the evenings, he sat with Bishwanath on the porch, sipping chai and listening to his stories. Bishwanath spoke of a time gone by, of a simpler way of life. He spoke of the village, its history and traditions, and of the people who had lived and loved there for generations. The villagers welcomed Nilothpol with warmth and curiosity. They were intrigued by this stranger from the city, drawn to his quiet demeanor and kind eyes. He spent his days getting to know them, listening to their stories and sharing meals in their homes. There was a strong sense of community in the village. People helped each other, celebrated together, and supported each other through difficult times. Nilothpol felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. He attended the village festivals, filled with music, dance, and laughter. He learned about their customs and traditions, each one rich in symbolism and history. He felt a growing connection to his heritage, a sense of pride in his roots. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the village, Bishwanath began to speak of a different time. His voice, usually jovial, took on a serious tone. He spoke of a time when India was under British rule, a time of struggle and sacrifice. He recounted stories of brave men and women who had fought for their country's freedom. He spoke of their unwavering spirit, their resilience in the face of oppression. He told Nilothpol about the sacrifices they had made, the hardships they had endured, all for the dream of a free India. Nilothpol listened intently, his heart heavy with emotion. He had read about India's struggle for independence in history books, but hearing the stories firsthand, from someone who had witnessed those tumultuous times, brought the past alive. Bishwanath's own brother Arun had been a freedom fighter. He described Arun as a man of few words but boundless courage. Arun, inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's teachings of non-violence, had dedicated his life to the cause of freedom. Vishwanath spoke of secret meetings held under the cover of darkness, of protests met with brutal force, of the constant fear that gripped the village. He recounted the day Arun was arrested, taken away by the British authorities. He never saw his brother again. Nilothpol sat in stunned silence as Vishwanath finished his story. He was moved by the sacrifices of these ordinary people who had achieved extraordinary things. He thought about his own comfortable life in the city, a life made possible by the struggles of those who had come before him. As days turned into weeks, Nilothpol felt a change within himself. The stories he had heard, the people he had met, had touched his soul. He realized that true freedom came not just from political independence, but from understanding and valuing the sacrifices that made it possible. The simplicity of village life, the warmth of the community, the stories of courage and sacrifice had a profound impact on him. He had come to the village seeking peace and had found something far greater, a sense of purpose, a connection to his roots, and a deeper understanding of himself. He realized that the city, with all its allure and excitement, could never offer the sense of belonging he had found in the village. He knew that he would never truly be the same. The time came for Nilothpol to return to the city. He was sad to leave the village and the people who had become like family to him. But he knew he carried their stories, their spirit within him. He returned to the city a changed man. The noise and chaos no longer bothered him as they once had. He carried with him the peace he had found in the village, the memories of its people and their stories. He knew that his journey was far from over. He had a responsibility to share what he had learned, to keep the memory of those unsung heroes alive. He would honor their legacy by living a life filled with purpose, compassion, and a deep appreciation for the freedoms he enjoyed.